Hello, and at the time of this video, Happy New Year. Um, so I have been quite busy on the smart home setup over the last month. What have I been up to? Well, first things first, there was a catastrophe, a drama, a problem. In that I suddenly started getting emails because I had set that up in a previous video. You can see that I was getting emails about a critical alarm on my DataMiner setup. Every 2 hours, in fact, it was happening. So that's good. In one hand, it means my monitoring system is working and I was getting an immediate feedback that something was wrong. What is bad is that the thing that was wrong was actually the server running my DataMiner. Which is a problem because whenever what was happening, what I was getting a critical alarm on was that my what is it called again? The disk percentage, the disk the disk busy time. Yes, that's the one. So the percentage disk busy time was suddenly climbing up to things like 800% and higher every 2 hours, and it would take like 5 or 10 minutes. It would spike to like 800, even in the thousands of percentage busy time. And when that was happening, all other information wasn't getting polled. So my element that I'm using, the Microsoft platform element, is repeatedly polling for information to that server, getting CPU, memory, and disk percent busy time. But when it got to that point, it got that value saying, it's climbed to a high percentage, and then it stopped for 5 or 10 minutes. So even though I had trending enabled, even though I was looking at all the processes, trying to figure out every 2 hours what exactly is causing this disk to be so busy, I really couldn't figure it out. Also, when the issue was happening, I couldn't actually remote desktop either. So a remote desktop connection wasn't getting established until after like 10 minutes, and by then the issue was gone. So very weird. Now this started happening about a day after a Windows update. So I was already pretty certain in what direction I had to look into at what the cause was. So something got updated and something in Windows changed, something to do with the disks. But still, I don't know what it was. Eventually, I did figure it out by looking in the system logs of the server. I found that every 2 hours, when the issue was occurring, I noticed a warning come up, a warning I hadn't encountered before, and it was actually saying, I'm gonna look at my paper for that one. It was actually saying reset to device, device rate port 0. And the thing issuing that warning was something called LSI_SAS. Now, I had not come across that term before, so I immediately started investigating and trying to learn about what that is. What is the LSI-SAS? It's a SCSI controller. Right. Now what is that? Well, I had to look all of those things up as well, but SCSI has been around, or SCSI also. SCSI has been around for quite a while, really long time actually, because I had a look in my old hard drives and my old hardware, and I found this bad boy. I'm pretty sure you've seen one of these. It's a hard drive, but this is an old one. It's 40 gigabytes and it's using a SCSI controller. So a SCSI controller here, or a SCSI port, and so it's nothing more than a female-male connector to attach hard drives, disk drives, CD-ROM drives, diskette drives, if you want to go all the way back, to the rest of your computer. Now, SCSI isn't just this guy. SCSI is kind of the family term of all of those connectors that have over the years increased in size. This is a fun thing. 40 gigabytes. I don't think you can actually install Windows 10 on one of these because it's too small now, but wow. Another SCSI that will probably be more familiar to you if you've used anything to do with hardware and hard drives, is this kind of connector. So, or I should say the small one, because that's SATA, SATA, so a SATA connector. That's also SCSI, also a SCSI connector, but it serializes the data, and I'm not going to go too deep in that, but it's better, it's modern, it's better. Now, LSI-SA, what's that? Well, turns out it's also a SCSI. Now I can't really show you except the port, where SATA is this small thing, LSI or SAS instead of SATA. So SAS, what is that? That's actually the entire thing. So it's a longer connector that plugs into the entire thing. Now what's different about that is it was made to handle more than one hard drive. So SATA is usually, one connector, one hard drive. SAS was made to handle multiple connectors to hard drives. So great. I'd figured out a little bit about what that is. So LSI SAS, that was reporting the warning, is a connector for a hard drive. Now, I'm talking virtual machines here. So my actual hard drive, the physical one, is actually this guy. So that's not SATA, that's not SAS, that's NVMe. So a brand new way of controlling with high speeds hard drives. So we've gone from these guys to like a very small chip, and that's 40 gigabytes. This is a terabyte SSD. So yeah, we've gone a long way over the years. Now, it's a virtual thing, and that's why it's using LSI SAS. So I looked into what's causing that error. I did find some websites that informed me that there was a bug in there. So there was a bug if you use that kind of connector in your virtual machine environment between a specific range of versions. Now, they said it was fixed. I had a look, and my version was higher than the one that contained the fix. However, I think they broke it again simply because it started happening after my Windows update. So I went with a workaround, because seeing as this is a virtual connector, because it's a virtual machine, there's no actual physical connectors like I've shown you, it's all virtual, you can choose something else. So I went with something called VMware Para Virtual SCSI. VMware Para Virtual SCSI. So it's their own virtual connector for their own VMware, and it's supposed to be really good, especially throughput wise. So what I did is I went in the VMware settings, and instead of trying to figure out the bug and the root cause even more and then try and maybe revert to Windows update, I really couldn't be bothered, so I worked around it. So I got rid of LSI SAS altogether as a connector for my virtual hard drive, and I went with that VMware Para Virtual thing. And since then, everything's been running fine. I haven't been getting my critical errors anymore, and proves that the monitoring system works. DataMiner gave me immediate feedback when it started happening, and I got to use my trending to see that it happened every 2 hours. Unfortunately, I didn't get all the data I wanted, simply because the drive itself was running DataMiner, and that's the one that got broken. So bad luck in that aspect, but still a lot of interesting things. It's not the only thing I did. It's gonna be small and quick, because I have been taking it easy concerning development and so on of my smart home setup, but I was very interested in getting more information on my network this time. So I really wanted to see how much data traffic am I sending and receiving across the internet every day, every week, every month, to see, because I had the Flybox subscription, which is only 150 gigabytes, so I had to take care in not spending too much data. So I had a look at all the different devices I could try to monitor to do that. One of them is I have a managed switch, but my Wi-Fi isn't connected to the managed switch, only my wired connection. So that wasn't a good idea to monitor specifically for what I wanted. I wanted to have a global overview of everything that's connected to my network, because with my smart home I'm going to try and go as much all IP as I can. So it's going to be very important that I have a way to monitor everything connected. So the other option was my flybox. However, my flybox is just the modem. I don't really use it. It's not really connected to anything except my other router, the big boy, Fritz box. A Fritz box, I have it written down as well, 7590. So it's one of the more modern ones, one of the more expensive ones, I guess, but it does give a lot of options. A very nice option that it gives is something called wireless mesh. So if you want to set up a larger area where you have wireless connection and you need a lot of throughput, which I will have because all my Shelly devices will be wireless, so I'm definitely going to have a lot of wireless communication. A mesh network is like a beefed up or a boosted wireless repeater. So if you have a wireless network, you can install a wireless repeater, put it somewhere, and it will grab the signal, repeat it, and send it out again. What does a mesh network do? It's actually multiple repeaters, but they have two antennas, one for sending, one for receiving, so the throughput is a lot better. And a mesh network is much smarter in its capacity for, in the software itself is much smarter in that it also load balances. So if you are in the range of, for example, 3 transmitters of a mesh Wi-Fi, and one of the transmitters is already handling 20 devices, even though it's closer range, it will connect you to a different one. So it's much smarter for that. So the Fritz box, very nice router. It's the core of my setup. So what am I going to monitor? I'm going to monitor the Fritz box. Now that was a bit of an issue because they don't have an API. Yeah, I was confused as well. I had a look around. The only thing it had that was kind of an API, and they, I guess, kind of recommended as well, is a UPnP. So just a universal protocol where you can get some raw data like packets and all of that. Now I made a driver, or started a driver with that, and it was interesting, but God was it annoying to program. It's so basic and so I didn't enjoy it, so I started looking into a different way. And then I figured, this thing has its own website, so you can surf to the IP of your router and you'll get access to the UI. Now that's their UI, and they can change that whenever they want, so that's the downside of what I'm doing now, which is I kind of just recreated their communication protocol for the UI, because happy days, when I went to their website, or when I went to the website of my modem, it's not secured, so it's not HTTPS, meaning it's not encrypted, meaning if you just open Wireshark you can see the packages flying by with the exact format of everything you need. Now it took a little bit of reverse engineering, aka hacking, to figure out how the authentication works, because of course there's no documentation on that. It's not an actual API, it's their own web-based UI that I'm kind of just sniffing and trying to recreate. But doing that, working with the HTTP like that and recreating it, actually turned out to be much easier, much simpler, and I get to benefit from some of the calculations that they are doing, and it's much easier to just look at the UI and say, oh well, I want this in my own monitoring, and then just look at what kind of site they're doing, do a Wireshark, and then copy and make it after. So I managed to do all of that. I managed to make a nice driver. It doesn't contain everything by far. No, it only has things like what I was interested in at the time was the data traffic. Now since then I've actually changed from Flybox to EDPnet, simply because I'm working from home as well. The 150 gigabytes a month just wasn't cutting it anymore. It was fine because I don't download that much videos and stuff, so all of that is fine, but with the work from home, I'm remote desktoping, I'm in IT, I'm programming, and it was a little too much. So EDP.net now actually has, as far as they say, no limit. So what I made right now is, kind of less important now, but it's still fun to see how much data I'm using every week, every day, every month. more interesting, and that's what I'm going to work on next, and in the next video I'll talk about what I did there, is because that Fritz box is the core, because it has all the information on everything wireless, it has my mesh Wi-Fi, it has the wired connections, it has connected to the internet. That's actually concerning data and network. That box is going to contain everything I need to know what's happening data-wise in my house. So I'm probably gonna keep working and developing that driver more and more and more. If eventually they change the firmware and they change some of the websites, yes, parts of the driver will break. I'll just make a new version and fix it when it happens. It's fine. I can live with that more than trying to figure out the raw data from the UPnP protocol. But so yeah, next thing I'm working on is I'm going to try and get a visual overview of everything's connected. So every device I have. So I'll have the power line adapter that I have to do the internet. I'll have all of the everything connected to the Wi-Fi, like the Shelly, all of my servers with their IP addresses. So I'll try and get that into DataMiner and start doing some cool things with visuals. So maybe add some DataMiner connectivity in there, see some connectivity, make maybe a nice dashboard or a visual. So we'll see. I'll put it in the element first. Once I have it in there, I can start playing around with the visuals and really have fun with making all of that nice to look at. So hopefully that's what I'll be working on next, and in the next video I'll give you more information on that. This was a bit of a longer video, but it has been a while since I made one, so have a nice year. I wish you the best of luck, and I'll catch you later.